Hey guys, welcome to Rationality, Reason, and Reality. I'm Supernova, and in this video I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, rationality. It's one of the three R's that I've named my videos after. It's a topic that I bring up a lot, I think. Rationality is simply logical consistency, and I value it a lot. I try to be rational in my actions and thoughts whenever possible. And there are many others out there who also do the same. A lot less than claim to, but there are others. And I like to get my information from people who are rational because I know I'll generally get it without bias and it will be factual and so on. But to do that, I have to know what it sounds like when somebody is speaking rationally. I have to be able to identify a rational person. How do I do that? Well, generally, it's not so much what they say as how they say it. A rational person tends to use middling language. That means uncertain, shaky language. There are irrational people out there like pundits and fundamentalists who talk with complete certainty, as if the things they know are things they will always know, that are unshakable and can't be changed. And yeah, in a lot of cases it's true, because they are unreasonable people. They can't be reasoned with. You could show them evidence and they will never change their minds. Not so with a rational person. A rational person gets their beliefs from being shown arguments and evidence. And because there's always the possibility for arguments that we haven't heard or evidence that we haven't seen, we know that the things that we believe now could change later. So I might say something like, I'm an atheist, I believe that there's no God. But even if I say something as certain as there is no God, it's more kind of a placeholder. It means with all the information that I currently have at my disposal, I think that there is no God. But I don't think I would use that language anyway. That's pundit language. I try to stay away from things like that. So generally, you hear a rational person using words like some and probably and maybe and sometimes rather than every and all. We try not to stereotype too when we're talking about groups and things. We make sure that we're talking about just generally principles about groups and things, and try not to talk about anything that's not true of that group by definition. So I hear this language sometimes even with theists. I don't think that believing in a God is rational, but nonetheless, I think you could still come to that conclusion if you don't value things like truth and reason as much as I do. If you value things like society and being social, then it makes sense that you would even come to a rational conclusion that you should believe in a God. Not that a God exists, but that belief is rational. And so sometimes I hear this language among theists, such as Reza Aslan, who's a Muslim scholar, and William Lane Craig, who you've probably heard of. He's a Christian apologist and debater. And they tend to use a lot of the rational language. You hear a lot of that from them. But should we? Now, I explained why I and other rational people would use middling language, and it's because we don't have all of the evidence and arguments. We could always be presented with something that we haven't seen before. But should that be true of theists? If you believe that there is a God out there who is omnipotent and omniscient, he has the power to give you all the evidence you need and knows the evidence and can present it to you, then you should already have it at hand. There should never be any uncertainty about the things you know, because you got it from a completely certain source. And that's really silly because it makes fundamentalists sound more rational than the actual rational people. But that's the way it should work if their theory is correct. And obviously it's not. Uh, the world would be much different if we had people actually getting their information from God. For instance, there's a site that I often use for citations, Bible verses, called BibleHub.com. And it's got like every verse in the Bible in many, many different translations on the same page. And at the very bottom, there are several commentaries by different Christians. And I can't help but notice that the commentaries are different. Sometimes they don't even agree with each other. Often when they're making apologies for verses that seem scientifically untrue or contradictory, they'll come up with different answers. But they shouldn't if they're getting those answers from the same sources. And are we to believe that people are making commentaries on the Bible without talking to God and asking him what he thinks? Because if they did, they'd be going to the same source. They'd come up with the same information. We find uncertainty in things like the birth of Jesus. According to Bible scholars, it had to happen between 4 and 6 BCE. And yet, even fundamentalists who believe in the Bible come to this date, this range of years. Why can't they be more specific? Why don't they say, oh yeah, it was definitely 4 BCE? It doesn't make any sense for them not to know if they could simply ask God. And that's the sort of thing that you would think that God would want them to know and would tell them. It bothers me when somebody like William Lane Craig doesn't know if there's a physical hell or not. When he debates the concept of hell, he hedges his bets and argues for both just separation from God and a lake of fire. Why doesn't he know? Did he not ask God? So you already know what I believe on talking to God. I already made a video about it. I don't think that anybody's actually getting their information from God, and that would explain why it doesn't sound like they are, and why they don't have the certainty that they ought to if they actually believe what they claim to believe. Anyway, I hope this was educational and that got you thinking, and feel free to comment below if you like, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.